So there is obviously a lot of stuff that is happening in our world right now today, but hey everyone, how's it going today, and welcome back to another update. So the big thing that I really want to share in today's update is that we now officially have new information about another new growing support that is now going on outside in order to try to do more fourth stimulus checks. The background story to what's been happening right now is that in the last update, we talked a little bit about how there is a brand new proposal that's happening in order to do fourth stimulus checks, but things related to things such as like about gases, the increased prices with gas and oil. There is now another growing support now in order to do more stimulus checks, and this one is actually much more related to about just inflation in general. So the big idea is that in today's update, I really just want to talk about maybe three things that are going on. Fourth stimulus checks, the inflation situation, and then maybe to also take a little bit of a deep dive back to talk about the Russia-Ukraine war situation that's going on there. So I'll probably put timestamps on the very bottom so you can jump around the video to whichever part you're most interested in hearing. But I do actually believe that every single one of these parts are actually very related to maybe really just understand the big picture. I think it would be maybe insightful to really be able to watch through. So with that being said, we're gonna get started right on the spot, but as always, real fast, just 10 really quick seconds. Consider smashing the like button if you guys hopefully enjoy videos like this. Consider subscribing, hitting the bell. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, maybe personal thoughts by the very end of this video about what you think about this situation, or honestly just really about anything. It's always really just great to say hi to new and familiar faces from you guys. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So the story to what's basically happening right now is that there is now another now growing support in order to do more fourth stimulus checks right now. But this brand new support is basically about everything related to inflation. And the story right now, maybe the backdrop, is that we are now starting to see a lot of information and reports come out to really talk about the inflation situation in our country, well, specifically America, because there's a few international people out there, interestingly enough. Huge love. But the big idea is that they're saying that right now in America, we are now starting to see inflation hit right around 8%. Long story short, what this means is the significance is that it means that everything that you are currently buying, paying for in your regular everyday lives, whether this is food, the average cost of everything that's in our country right now is going up by about 8%. That's really the big significance to this. And it's one of the highest that we've actually really ever seen since 1982. They said that supposedly right now, for specific examples, gas is now right around $4.25 per gallon. And they said that about a year ago, it was under $3, I believe. It's like about $2.86. So they do definitely say that like right now, the gas and oil price situation, it's pretty significant. And maybe feel free to share if you guys have any particular experience about what gas is currently like in your place, in your particular state. But the big idea is that many are estimating that because of this recent rise, it's going to now potentially cost a lot of households an average of about $200 to $300, closer to $300 now per month because of everything that's happening. And when you're talking about, let's say, $200 to $300 per month, they basically estimated we're talking about basically about $3,000 extra that many families and households are now going to have to pay in order to basically cover their expenses. So why this is really related is because now there is another growing support right now, and the reasoning for this one in order to do stimulus checks is to try to give money inside of our pockets to help combat that inflation for many people that might potentially really need it because of the rising cost. And so because of that reason, the estimate what they really want to do is that now this one is not necessarily a proposal, but it is just a talk that's going on right now. It's something that they're talking about in Congress. It's something they're talking about behind the scenes. And it's something that a lot of analysts are also preaching for. And it makes sense because there's also a math to it. That because of the increased cost, what they really want to potentially do is to provide fourth stimulus checks of up to around $1,100. Where does this number exactly come from is because this is the number or the cost that many families are potentially now going to have to now increase to pay for the things that they typically pay for. So what they really want to do is that they want to give stimulus checks to cover that added extra amount of money that they're going to need in order to try to keep the cost of everything in most families the same now. So basically what it used to be, so they don't have to deal with these like increased prices. So hopefully their money can go further than whatever they have now. Especially again, because I think most people that are, going through a lot of this are people that are going through particularly tight budgets. So it is something that's very, very particularly needed there. But that's really the big story about what's been going on with stimulus checks. Essentially, last time we talked about one proposal, this is related to oil and gas, and now we have another proposal or another just talk about supporting for it, and this one's just about everything related to just inflation in general, everything related to inflation. Now, the next part is that I really want to talk about now is really about the Ukraine and Russia situation, and because this is the part that actually is very, very important, even if you're in America, because one of the reasons we are now actually seeing, and this kind of goes back to why everything is really, really tied together, one of the reasons we are starting to see potentially even more inflation to come, which is not a good thing because this is, scary. One of the reasons that this is potentially now going to increase even further is actually exactly because of the Russia and Ukraine situation. Because the reasoning to what's been going on right now, maybe the background story to just the war, or we'll just simply put as the invasion, because I know there's a lot of, different terminology that's being mixed, but the situation between Russia and Ukraine that's going on right now is that it's really bad. Let's just simply put it that way. It's escalating. And I think that it's because of what's been happening right now. They are saying that right now, supposedly, about 3 million refugees have essentially now fled the country, or are basically just trying to, let's just say, escape the current situation that they're currently in right now. So it's been basically about 3 weeks, I believe, since this entire thing started. They say that supposedly about almost 1,000 people have sadly, lost their lives throughout this entire time, and we're talking about specifically civilians, so not army soldier people, but they predicted that basically about something in the thousands of civilians have now basically had to go through stuff during the war. And there are now essentially also 3 EU leaders that are trying to come by to visit Kyiv soon in order to try to negotiate or talk it out of trying to, I guess you could say essentially just try to create some kind of compromise, as difficult as it may actually be, given what we're going through. They have said that there are a lot of civilians and a lot of refugees that have already fled to a lot of neighboring countries as well, such as like Poland, other European countries nearby. So it's definitely something that's very, very big that's going on there. And I think it's something to definitely just send our best wishes and support for, because of so much that is happening there right now. And so why this is, again, going back related to what's happening in the US actually, is because the story is that everything in the world is really kind of sort of connected in its own way. And Russia specifically, or just that part of the world, Russia and Ukraine, there's a lot of things, a lot of resources related to stuff like oil, gas, and especially things like wheat that actually comes from that specific region. So if that region is now being invaded, it means that it's going to be a lot harder now for a lot of the other countries around the world to be able to get their resources. So because of everything that's happening, if prices over here becomes increased, with the gas and oil, and then now if there's less resources to go around, basically like typical economics, you have a lot of people that are trying to fight for a certain something, but we don't have as much supply of that something, so now everyone's gonna, try to increase the price to pay for whatever there is available left, because there's just so little of it. Now, in terms of what is the actual plan going forward from here is that I believe that President Joe Biden did recently speak that he's going to be planning to try to take a trip out now to Arabia, or that like part of the world. The reason why he's trying to take a trip there is because that's also another area of the world that is known for have a lot of resources for things such as like, again, oil and gas. So what they really want to do is that because they know that certain resources are probably going to be difficult to get in the the part of the world that we talked about with all of the invasion, the fighting, all of the, the stuff that's going on right there. They want to see if maybe they can find resources in a lot of other places. And that's really the goal. They believe that in places like Arabia, they may also now really try to be able to maximize getting all of the oil, the gas, the energy, the resources they typically need in order to control a lot of the prices and make sure we have enough supply to be able to go around. And then of course over in Russia and Ukraine, we really just have to see what ends up taking place from here. I do know is that because a lot of the leaders are at least now starting to try, at least they're trying to sit down and talk out some kind of agreement, hopefully they can go through some kind of compromise. But of course going forward from here, this really is just something that it's just related to time. We really just have to see what time ends up telling us. But really, beyond this is for now, that's pretty much what I really just wanted to share in today's update. So hopefully if you guys found that relatively insightful, I know there was a lot of hard news to share, but maybe consider smashing the like button, or you guys can always decide, because I do know it's been difficult. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell if you guys haven't done so. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts about honestly just really anything at all. So that being said, if you guys made it this far, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.